How about we get started, John?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Looks like we're getting a few people with some really great comments from where they are from all around the world. That's really, really fabulous. So let's see if I get started here. So welcome to the, I guess, the evening session of the Dataverse community meeting. And it was such a great day today. We had a great morning. I don't know about the rest of you, but I've been looking at the agenda for tomorrow, and it's just an amazing agenda. It's a long day, but it's an amazing agenda. I am so excited that we're doing such great work in this whole group. I truly wish we were all together in person, but it will be that way soon. I think we see the light at the end of the tunnel. It'll be that way soon. I want to go over a quick outline of what we're going to talk about today, and what we're going to, kind of give a little summary of where we are today for the Global Dataverse Community Consortium and what we might do for the future, and some of our governance structures and services, and talk about some of the great thing that our members are doing. And we'll start with a kind of an overview of our current members and where our membership is headed and what it's looking like. And it is actually very, very amazing. We're starting to see more and more members from all around the world. Just yesterday or the day before, I think the day before, we had our first member from Ecuador. So we're starting to see lots and lots of participation. We currently have 32 members from 15 countries, and they quite literally span the globe from those over in over on the as Steve and I used to talk, the lower side of the earth or the upper side of the earth, depending on which view you have. So we got to talk. We have all different latitudes and longitudes here. So it's fabulous that we have such good representation all around the world, and we're so happy to have everyone in our community, because we're a community of colleagues and friends. I want to quickly get the budget stuff out of the way. We all know that budget's important, but we want to get that out of the way to talk about our collaborations we're doing. We've had a fabulous year as far as work done. It's been a challenge. COVID's presented a big challenge for everyone around the world. But as usual, this community has the most resilient, brightest, hardworking folks that I've ever worked with in my career. And everywhere we turn, exciting things are happening around Dataverse. Some of that can be seen here in some of our numbers. Our income was over $100,000 this year, and that was from different contracts and consulting. Of course, there's lots of expenses to go along with that because you have to fund all those things. A couple of things I'd like to point out on the budget. We did have a deficit starting this year. We came into 2021 with a little more than $10,000 in unpaid fees and some data site overages where we used more DOIs than expected. We also had some bank fees, some unexpected bank fees, some bank fee changes. So some of those things impacted our deficit in 2020. And that of course rolls into 2021 and starts eating away at some of our money in 2021. As you notice, we have a substantial amount of accounts receivables in excess of $43,000, and these are unpaid memberships or contracts, some of which are checks in the mail kind of thing. We all know that universities and governments move fairly slow, so we're very, very cognizant of that, and we do want to make sure things don't fall through the cracks. So today, everyone, any group member who had an invoice that is in this accounts receivable should have received a notice today. And if you think you've already paid, that's okay, because there's lots of confusions that abound here with wire transfers and credit cards and And the way the UNC here manages the accounts, and sometimes we just have to track it down. So it's possible that you did pay and we just don't have it in the system. We have found that to happen. So we clear those up as quick as possible. But right now, once we account for all the accounts receivables, our current balance is around $512,000. This is a number that is fairly low. It'd be nice to have a little more cash reserves, and because we do have bills to pay. The challenge here is we're working on a nonprofit basis. That's one of the agreements here with UNC, is that we're not here to make money. We're providing a service, and this is something that Odom has helped start many groups that do this. This is fairly common for the Odom Institute, is to start new service groups that are not for profit and are helping the academic communities. So we're okay with this for now. We do have to work towards a more fiscally responsible budget, and I'll talk about that as we move forward. There's some small tweaks that we'll have to do. We did not have any changes to the data site contract this year. Those numbers remain the same. So we don't have a huge increase there. I do propose, as far as our membership fees, we got one challenge with all of our charges. Almost everyone pays with either wire transfer or credit card, and each transaction that happens, the GDCC gets charged a fee, and these fees have been increasing. So we tried to actually have the actual members include the increase within their payment, but not knowing how they're going to pay, it's hard to tell up front what exactly the fee will be. So rather than work that out along the way and have lots of negative arrears as far as transfer fees, I propose that we increase this membership fee by $50, going to $550, and then not worry anymore about any wire transfer fees or credit cards or any of the other bank fees. And this will help cover all the bank fees, so we don't end up with these $39.42 in arrears for an account, or $67 in arrears for an account, or $102 if it's a large amount. So we're having these monies in these accounts with odd numbers because of these transfer fees. And again, this membership fee this is no change. It's due the first of every year. And I do apologize. This year, I didn't send out invoices for a month or so after the first of the year. So we'll try to get that a little faster this coming year to give you a little bit more time. So the DOI fees, as I mentioned before, there was no increase in the DOI fees from DataSite, and hence no increase for us, although we do have two variables here that change just a little bit. One is the bank fees. So I've included the bank fees within these. So rather than paying a percent over if you pay by a different method, these will just be a flat fee with no bank fees. In addition, the exchange rate changed just a little bit, and we have to account for the exchange rate between US dollars and euros since we pay in euros. So this is a proposed change. It's not a huge change. If you were already paying your transaction fees, this is not a whole lot different than what those were anyhow. So those are the two proposed changes, and we'd love to have comments on any of these changes, and the place to put those would be in the notes, the Google Doc notes. We'd love to hear from our members exactly where they are on these things and on our fee changes, and we'd like to hear their responses to those. Moving towards governance, I have such excitement in my heart for Merce and the wonderful opportunity. I'm so happy for her, and at the same time, I sure hate to see her move down this list because she's a dear friend and does super work. But as you notice, we are expanding the steering committee as well, and thank goodness Merce will be able to, in her new role, be able to at least be on the advisory committee, which is really good, because what we see is agencies from all around the world, other repositories, other data organizations, other government entities that we can learn from. As Gary said this morning, we have made a difference in the world, and we're starting to see open data and agencies all around the world be interested in the type of work we're doing. I think this three-tier strategy that we're proposing here of a steering committee to do the day in and day out work, that would comprise of, for now, myself, Steve from the Australian Data Archive, Liz, who's currently at IQSS at Harvard, working with Merce already for some continuity there, as well as Philip with UIT. We will help kind of shape the next steps for the Global Dataverse Community Consortium along with our members. We want as much input as we can. We're here to kind of do the day in and out work, but we want the words and things that we want to do to come from our members, because we're very, very important. So please put any of that stuff in the Google Docs. I see Danny put it in the chat. In the chat, the link to that Google Docs. Please talk about anything you would like to in there, bring up comments. We're happy to answer questions, as well as talk about strategies for solving problems here. In addition to the steering committee and a general advisory committee that's going to be comprised of external folks, we also have a technical advisor committee. Right now, Jim and Gustavo will be on that group, and we'll be putting more and more people onto that group, as well as external people in that group as well. We want to look forward to more and more community participation. And as we'll talk, if we go to talk about as we move forward, and we go to talk about including all of the different software upgrades and the stuff, the working groups that I'll mention shortly are working towards collaborating with groups around the world to include more and more tools within the Dataverse and make Dataverse fit with different things, with different strategies that people are working to make data fair around the world, as we heard today in the opening sessions. So that group, that technical advisory committee, will be important, and we're happy to have more and more people on that committee. So I do want to take this second to say that at any point that anyone in a community would like to be a part of some of these activities, suggest people that go on these technical advisory committees or serve in these positions, we are desperate for any help there. We'd love to have that. We're so happy to have more and more help from folks all around the world, and a very diverse group is what we're looking for. So we're very, very happy to see some of that happening all around. One thing I'd like to mention, and this has been one of the goals from early on, but I think we're approaching a time where I'd like to have a good discussion about this and bring more and more people on board, and especially having Liz Hess at IQSS help work with us to come up with a plan for this. Some folks here at UNC can help as well, but we need as much advice as we can on this. The ability to run the accounts and the actual finances through UNC there is no actual time limit, but it is a time limited thing. It was meant to be an incubation period where this moves on for our community. We didn't envision in the beginning this being a Harvard or a UNC thing. We envisioned it to be a community thing, and how we can move this into a nonprofit and a governance structure that not only manages the finances, but also manages the direction we take Dataverse and what we offer as services within the Global Dataverse Community Consortium. And these services are not offered by one or two groups, they're offered by the community. The idea here is, what does the community want to give each other? And that's how we're building this thing. And as you already heard in some of the presentations already today, many of our members are already contributing code, contributing external tools. There's lots of interesting things, and more to come tomorrow. There'll be many, many more details tomorrow about all the exciting work folks are doing. And the GDCC is here to help coordinate and collaborate with the folks at Harvard to help do that. So as I said, it's really the collaboration of all the projects. And it's a super broad range of things, from supporting just coordinating community developments, the things that are happening all over the world already. We want to be able to coordinate that. And if there's some things within inside Dataverse that could be tweaked or changed to make many of the community's tools fit, then that's the goal, is to try to coordinate all those things and work with IQSS and augment that in order to move it forward even faster in a more systematic way. Helping you design your tools and guidance to help folks achieve their goals while staying within the community's goals of making things a unified. We don't want to see lots of forks in the community. We've been very fortunate that we don't have dozens and dozens of forks out there. There are a few out there, but not too many. And I think that we're working to try to bring all that stuff together. And the idea of having things that go into pull requests that get into the base system is just fabulous. And today, as Danny mentions, it's nice to see a presentation that comes along with a pull request. It's such a fabulous thing. So we want to maintain and develop all those contributions, as well as have outreach and start talking to other communities about joining us and bringing in different places around the world that need Dataverse, and talking with those. And as we all go out to our different, I guess they're virtual conferences these days, but when we all go out to our virtual conferences and go out and see people in the community, we bring that word out that GDCC is here to bring all this together and work together. So one of the other projects that we're working on is there are groups around the world that have a need for Dataverse, but they don't have the in-house programming staff, in-house support staff, potentially don't even have archivists. Some do, some don't. But if you don't have an archivist, or you don't have curation workflows, or you want to learn how to do that, sometimes that's challenging in your environment if you don't have someone that can work with you. The GDCC has taken on several projects, two of which are that we're continuing to support, where we do the full installations of Dataverse for these communities, help manage those, train staff there, help develop training materials, online learning materials, so these GDCC members can take that back to their community, train their researchers, train their developer people there how to use Dataverse. We manage these things either in a cloud environment in one case, another case they're actually hardware. There's a hardware environment that we remote into, and the GDCC manages these systems for these folks on a contract basis and teaches them how to use them. This is a very, very worthwhile project that also supports things within the Dataverse community, supports the GDCC, as well as pushes these Dataverse installations to places that probably would have a hard time supporting them. And we'd love to expand this. So if you have anyone that you have heard have the interest, well, I'd love to use Dataverse, but we don't have staff. Or I'm a one-person shop. I have lots of data, but I don't know how to run a Dataverse. But in many cases, your restrictions of the country won't allow us to share and move the data to like Harvard or UNC or to one of the other Dataverses that allow external people. Sometimes the data has to stay locally, so you need your own instance. And in that case, we're here to help if possible. In addition, with the help of Jim and the folks over at Harvard, we're also doing some custom programming and consultation. And we'll hear more and more about this tomorrow in detail. We've already heard a little bit about it today in some of Danny's presentation. But what we're seeing is that groups that would like to see changes within Dataverse, but would love to coordinate with the community and would love to work on with the inside group and be able to coordinate and design these systems in order to not only serve their needs, but the needs of the community as well. And we're already seeing lots and lots of great synergies and things. I've seen, like today in the chat, I saw several of these projects that we're working on. People in the chat said, "Yay, I've been waiting on that." Well, this is your chance to propose things, or if you have some work you'd like done, and you can find some local resources for that. We're here to make those happy times come when someone says, "Yay, I wanted that feature." So we're here to help, and we're happy to do that. And it's been a great pleasure. And we can go into some more detail and ask questions about what some of these are, but many of these work we're doing are going to be talked about in all the sessions, especially tomorrow. I saw several of them tomorrow. In addition, we also have, we still manage our Git repository where the language packs are in there and they're managed by the community. If your language is not there, we would love to support, have you help support a language like that. We'll put a team together and put one there, but we have many languages already supported, and we'd love to see action there. GDCC helps administer and support the Jenkins that allows systems to automate builds for Dataverse. And last, but certainly not least, are the working groups. These working groups are coordinated by the GDCC, but they really are the community in action. What these are parts of the community that come together and help figure out how to solve problems for the community and coordinate that, and then go back to the programmers with a plan. Sometimes it's just talking out loud about things that you're interested in, or things you like or don't like. Things like we saw several discussions on things like embargoes, right? Embargoes is something we've always wanted, but we've never hashed these things out. Things like being able to have more and better metadata. Now we have the community working together to talk about the pluses and minuses. Sometimes it's just an educational process where I didn't realize that other people needed licenses to work this way. I was thinking about it, licenses work my way. But in the end, we get together and we, as a whole, we're much smarter than we are individual. And we can come up with a plan to solve everyone's problem at the same time. And often we can leverage work each other's doing, and it'll be faster and or cheaper. So I would highly encourage folks to join the working groups. The working groups are there for you, and they are you. We want to all get together and solve problems. So if you have a proposed working group, we'd love to have volunteers to lead those working groups. It's sometimes a challenge. We're all super busy, but if we can have someone lead those groups, we would definitely coordinate that, and then we will streamline that working group's effort back into the system, and hopefully we'll see pull requests from each of those groups as well. So I don't want to talk much longer. I want to go ahead and let's have some discussion about some of these things, especially things like the governance and 501c3 and directions, suggestions on where to go. Of course, the 501c3 is what's typically used here in the US, but we're an international organization. Maybe it's easier to go another route. I'd love to talk with folks about opportunities for those things, especially groups that have already done things like this for other groups. We can learn from that. With that, I'll kind of bounce it over to Mercedes if Mercedes had any few things to say.
Not much to add from my side. First, thank you, John. Your energy always shows, and it makes the GDCC run, right? So, but I did want to have a chance, since Liz Hess is here with us, to just, if she could say a few words. Many of you know her already, but for those who don't know her, I think it would be great to hear from her. Thanks, Liz, for joining.
Thanks, Mercedes, and thanks, John. And I just want to reinforce, it's great for both of you to have so much energy in this, and the whole team and the community pulling together. It's really an amazing initiative. As Mercedes mentioned in the chat, I'm the executive director for the Institute for Quantitative Social Science. I've been here for 4 years. And while we're very sad to see Mercedes leaving, she'll leave a big gap. We're really super excited about the opportunity, and we know she's going to stay very involved with us. We know where she's moving to. I have her address. But I just wanted to also add, I'm really excited about joining the steering committee and getting much more involved in Dataverse. Feel free, as I get to know more about GDCC, I know a little bit from the sidelines, but as I get to know more about what's going on, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks.
Great. Liz is fantastic. So everybody's in good hands here with this great steering committee. So yeah, we wanted to open to questions. I think John said initially that we're doing this session twice because of, just because of the schedule, to just make sure that as many of the members from the community and those who want to become members or they're interested to learn more about what is this GDCC about, right? Could just be able to participate. So we'll repeat the session in the morning. You can come back in the morning, but you don't need to. Others in other time zones will join. But yeah, we wanted to have a chance to hear from you. What do you think about, there are some budget issues that you might have some words about it. What do you think about what GDCC should focus on? What are the things that have worked well for GDCC to do as a service? And also with the working groups, for example, I think that a lot of the sessions that we'll hear in this community meeting are happening because of those working groups. So they are already providing these conversations, right? The breakouts that will happen tomorrow and the next day. So any ideas? I know it's late for some of you, so thanks for being here, but any questions or ideas?
So we did have two questions in the chat. One of them was from me, and John preemptively answered it about paying for the community Slack. So this is one where we investigated it and we needed that official 501c3 status. So I guess we'll get the full Slack access once we have the nonprofit status. So thank you for preemptively answering that. And then there's another question in here. I think it's from Sherry. Sherry, did you just want to re-ask your question in the chat here?
Sure, Danny. I can't hide from you. No, I mean, the GDCC has lots of information already. I think that the community would benefit by having some of those links. I know there's the metadata working group that Anna has been doing, just, and the things that, the GitHub that Jim's been working on. I think having some of that information would be helpful for me to have in one place because I keep losing it. Thanks.
That's a great suggestion. And actually, we talked about this a little bit. Mercedes and I've had this conversation, and we really need a reorg of our website as well as the Harvard's Dataverse website. We want to try to do that together, but you're exactly right, Sherry. That could be, that should be and will be a goal for this year to get that information where it's easier to find.
Yes. In fact, I think we had some meetings scheduled that we unfortunately had to cancel, but that we were going to talk about that. Yeah, that should happen. Let's see, any thoughts about the consulting, some of the work that through GDCC has been done that has provided new features, was providing new features to Dataverse? Any thoughts about that or comments? Is that a direction that you like to see GDCC going?
So one thing I'd like to add about that, Mercedes, and I think it would be important as we grow as a community to not only have GDCC people employed by GDCC and or Harvard doing some of this work, but some of the community members. So one thing to note that in the case of, for example, the Don's work, we basically did all the work to get things going and lined up, and then the programmers at Don's are doing some of the work. right? So they're doing some of this program. We're coordinating some of it, and we're doing a little as well. But that expanding that to others organizations, there may be some organizations that don't have staff that can do these, but I'm certain that many of these organizations have staff, have programmers that could do many of this work. And what they need is a coordination or an inside the inner workings of Dataverse, or a direction to go for some projects. So I'd love to see any, for example, volunteer your organization. Hey, we have a programmer here. We'd love to share that programmer when they have time. And maybe we could come up with a way to have some cost share benefits of programmers.
Well, I can't offer you any programmers, but I can offer you. I mean, I'm definitely interested in I guess you said the consulting for the Kenya and some of the other places. I mean,
Yep.
I would, I'd like to train people, or I would like to, do what I can on the front end of Dataverse, because I don't have any developers or things like that, but I can definitely, I think, contribute on that side.
Yeah.
I guess we don't have a community newsletter, but something that would have, that gives the community members more information about those types of collaborations, and either where that the need is here, and you need to do these two things, or just throw it out there and see what people would be offering to contribute. I know I would like to contribute if I could for some things like that.
Yep. So you're exactly right, and shame on me for not being clear. It's not always the programmer, right? So, for example, in the cases you mentioned, in both of those cases, those organizations not only wanted installing the Linux server and managing the server itself, installing Dataverse and doing all the updates and setting up single sign-ons and tying into their university and managing in the cloud. They also needed training videos, curation, advice. Here's the type of data that we have, and we don't have archivists that'll actually help us move from here to here. And I know we have lots of folks that can help contribute to curation workflows, to create videos. The community's already done some of that work. And it actually is a limitation for the GDCC. We need more folks that can do that stuff. For example, in both of those cases, I leaned on Tumai and her archive group to do that work. Well, if I keep, eventually their time runs out, right? That you can't do but so much at one time, and they've been super, super busy because of that. But what we'll have to do, if we're going to expand as a community, we need cases where everyone chips in and does that. And we're not talking about chipping in for free. We're talking about being a consultant for that, and there will be a fee paid to your group to do that. So it's a win-win situation.
So I guess I have a question. So say I'm interested in the outputs from the technology committee. Like, is there like a report, or like how would I keep up to date with whatever they're discussing, or what's going on in that committee?
So right now that committee is just forming.
Okay.
So we haven't really done much beyond get together. We do get together, the GDCC group, technical advisory, and really it's not just the technical advisory, it's the total group. It's Mercedes, myself, Danny, Gustavo, and Jim get together every other week. Although, as Mercedes, we've been super busy lately. We've canceled several of them, unfortunately. But we get together and talk about those. And those, we have a Google Doc with those things on it. We'd be happy to share that with you as well. But it'd be better to have probably a more formal output of these groups. Maybe that's a great suggestion. Maybe each one of these committees should have a formal report out once a month or once a quarter. And we also talked about doing more full-fledged in Slack where we can see it ongoing as well, to have some of these discussions, and we're working towards that, hopefully.
That's great. I didn't realize that committee was brand new. And like you're saying about reporting, thinking about the working groups is working very well, because each working group, I think the setup is that there's a Google Doc for each working group, and they just have like a reverse date organized running log of minutes for the meeting. So if I miss a meeting for this or that group, I can go look at their Google Doc and I can see, oh yeah, there's that meeting I missed, and I can kind of catch up there. So maybe something like that would work. Thanks.
Yep.
And I was just wondering, is there any people in the audience that are not members now that they think, well, they think they now have enough information to see if they would become a member as they have the Dataverse repository running, or that they would have more questions? There's a question in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are some groups that are working with the integration with this space, right? Then Gustavo, you have, do you remember the groups that are, or are they here or not here?
So
with CCAN, I don't think so, but not that I have heard so far.
Yeah, so nothing with CCAN that I know of, but DSpace, the project with Dash that we're looking at Harvard would better integrate that. But to answer the question, I don't think there's any working group that's focused on that specifically, like an interoperability working group. There's just individual efforts.
Right. That's a very interesting topic, actually. So that would be, although some of the packages, well, yeah, it depends on what level of interoperability. Maybe some of the metadata groups are doing some of that. But Jim, do you want to say?
I was just going to mention that the RDA work that we had, right, was to create an interoperable way of exporting data and metadata from Dataverse using the RDA standards for interoperable bags. So that was work that we got in through GDCC, and it's there are pull requests out there, and it's actually getting tied into the stuff that DONS and Sciences PO want to use. They're actually using pieces of what came out of the RDA grant to do that. If you go to the preservation session, you'll hear more about those bag structures, because that's how QDR is archiving their information, and there are other groups looking at that as well. So.
And just one more thing I'll mention is that all three systems support OAI PMH, I believe. So that's one level of interoperability you can get between them. If you put data in one system, you should be able to harvest it to the other. And then if you can give us more details on what kind of integration you're interested in, we can certainly try to help.
Sorry, I had no sound, no video. Well, the thing is more on legacy things, because most of our universities have already this space in place for publications and general document sharing. And sometimes it's hard for us to justify that, well, we need to build another repository, and then what we get in return is that, wow, how difficult it will be for us to try to build references between them and to really get a working, sorry, there's an airport close. So, and get those things to work together. How much effort will they have to do that?
So in this case, would be integrating the publication, the article with the data. So the article in the publications in this space and the data in Dataverse, or would be to bring, yeah.
And also we have SICA repositories, because we have government data as research data united in thematic.
Right.
And as SICA was the option for government data in most countries, at least in Brazil, that's the case. So what do we do? Because we need to get those things working. For most of open data, government open data in Brazil, the option was SICA. And now,
for many countries it is.
Many countries.
Yep.
Yeah. And as universities are right in the middle of that, we have research data, we deal with government data, we have all these things put together.
Right. It's a very good question. The best way to integrate them, because in this case, it's not so much. I mean, part is sharing the metadata, but it's also having links from one digital object to another, right? And this is very similar to what Harvard plans to do. It's part of the Harvard Data Commons and integrating DASH, which is the open access publication repository with the Harvard Data Repository. So I think that in the coming year, we'll learn a lot about that.
Oh, thank you.
Scholars Portal has done also some work on that, right? So in Canada, so there could really be room for a working group, basically.
Okay.
I think that would be very interesting. Maria Luisa, maybe you want to even lead the working group.
Oh. Yeah. No,
volunteering somebody.
You said that as you know, we're having lots of difficulties here in terms of financing and all this. So it's great that now we are having almost everything online. So that made us participate much more on this kind of groups. So when it's not remote again, if we are going to maintain.
Yeah, well, actually, I just chatting with Gary King, who gave the welcome this morning about that maybe it even beyond this time, right, the pandemic time, at least once a year would be good to do an online meeting, even if there are some meetings in person, because it does give it does allow many of you in the community. We saw in this morning that we had people from so many places in the world, and it facilitates the participation, and that's one of the things we want to make sure that continues, right? That we don't limit to those who are privileged enough to travel to a place or another. We could also do a tour and like we were saying, so in many countries. But I think the online meeting might be an interesting thing to always do some way or another.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions, we could finish early. It's a possibility. There's nothing wrong about that.
No. But I would suggest that everyone, if you have an idea, an interoperability group is a fabulous idea. And all we need is a couple of people to get it started. We'd be happy to help coordinate that. And like you say, it's all remote. We could do it remote very well, and adjust the hours depending on the time zone of the participants. We've done that as well too. So we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, we'll try to engage some other people. That would be nice, I guess. I guess it's a real problem we have. So
I could also see in your area, a Dataverse meeting in Brazil. There are now dozens of folks testing or using Dataverse there now, and many of them will face the exact same problems you are. So that's something the GDCC would be happy to help coordinate across those members that are there. We have plenty of contacts all through that region. So if you would like to put together one, I'd be happy to help coordinate that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So John and Liz, well, should we give that officially? Should we?
Yeah, I think we can.
The session is that. So
yeah, we can.
But we're gonna
give everybody 10 minutes or 9 minutes now of their time for this evening or the morning, how the case may be.
and if you're very excited, if you're excited to hear that again tomorrow at 8 in the morning, well, 8 Eastern time, US Eastern time. So wherever you are, well, whatever time that is in your time zone. So we'll be here again.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody, because this is really a community organization. The folks that are here, the folks that will be here in the morning, all together make up the GDCC. So it's so amazing to see all the great work everyone's done.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good evening or morning.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
All right.